Welcome to the HR Toolbox, the podcast where we help you build your toolbox of resources, best practices, and strategies shaping the world of HR and business today. Whether you're an HR professional, small business owner, office manager, or someone wanting to learn more about today's work environment, we're here to help. Each week, we take a dive into our HR Toolbox to bring you an in-depth look at a different HR topic, regulation, or business solution. Send us an email at hrtoolboxpod@gmail.com to suggest a topic or resource tool. The HR Toolbox is here to help businesses stay compliant and competitive. I am your host, Amy Alden. I am committed to your business success one tool at a time. Let's dive in and see what we find in our HR Toolbox this week. Today, we talk with our friend Tina Schust Robinson, where we are discussing the critical importance of soft skills, which we like to call human skills, in the workplace. We explore how these skills can be defined, identified, and assessed during the hiring process, emphasizing the need for organizations to prioritize these skills alongside technical abilities, and we discuss also on the impact of technology on hiring practices and the need for continuous employee development. We also discuss the challenges posed by hybrid work environments, and we talk about the advocacy for a holistic approach to hiring and employee development, where we recognize the value of human skills in fostering a positive organizational culture. Tina Schust Robinson is the founder of WorkJoy. WorkJoy Coaching provides innovative facilitation and coaching solutions to organizations ready to unleash the potential of their humans. Join me in my discussion with Tina Schust Robinson. Tina, thank you so much for joining me today at the HR Toolbox podcast.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Tina Robinson. I have been doing what I call humans and work, or work at the intersection of humans and work for, more than 25 years. I have been a management consultant. I have worked in-house leading HR teams. I have been an executive at an HR technology company. And since 2017, I have been the founder and CEO of WorkJoy, where I decided I needed to give myself permission to feel joyful about work. So I do all of my favorite things, which is coaching, training, teaching, facilitating, and a lot of keynote speaking. At WorkJoy, we invest in leaders at all levels, and our philosophy is we believe in the unleashing of human potential, and that includes our soft skills and our hard skills. So it's a perfect link to what we'll be talking about today.
That is actually the perfect link to our discussion today. So,
isn't it a perfect link? Yes, I did that on purpose. Oh, and I'm also writing my first book. So my first book, which is called Developing Your Business Leaders, A Guide to Investing at All Levels, is going to be out in March of 2026, published by the Global Association for Talent Development. So I'm super excited about that. And I have to start practicing promoting it.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. That's going to be awesome. I think that that's much needed in the workplaces today.
Yep.
I'm really excited to learn more about you and discuss the importance of soft skills in the workplace. So I was wondering if you could start by letting us know how we define soft skills and what we use that as the context of a company's hiring process.
It's such a great question, and I'm gonna first say I hate the term soft skills.
Okay.
Because you and I both have been doing this work for a long time, and we know that the skills that we're going to be talking about are sometimes the most difficult to teach. They're sometimes the most difficult to interview for, and they're sometimes the most difficult to coach because they are so interwoven to who we are as humans. So when I teach classes on this topic, I actually put out there, what should we call these? And it's interesting the names that people come up with. And what I have decided to call them, and I'm not the first to call them this, are human skills.
That is more accurate in 100% more accurate in what they actually are.
They are, and also they're the skills that I believe will continue to differentiate us from the robot overlords who we fear are going to take over our jobs. I have become a convert to Chat GPT, Claude
Hmm.
AI. I use it every single day. I love it for what it can do for me. And it's also forcing me to double down on a lot of my human skills. So I'm going to quote uh, two sources. One of them is a quote attributed to Roger Enrico, the former chairman and CEO of PepsiCo, who said, "The soft stuff is always harder than the hard stuff." And then there was an article that was published by the Project Management Institute, PMI. The article said that soft skills allow us to best apply our technical understanding within the context of a particular situation, that they elevate hard skills beyond the constraints of our training, and they lead to innovation and creativity. So, human skills allow us to apply the hard skills, which are also known as technical or functional skills.
Yeah.
So we really need both.
What would you say are some human skills that are important in the workplace, or human skills that you're looking for to help place people in a productive workplace?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question because I'm going to quote more smart people. Uh, So the World Economic Forum published the Future of Jobs report for 2025, and they listed the skills that are going to be most in demand, or the share of employers who consider certain skills to be core for their workforce. So let me read the top 6 or 7 to you. And you
Hmm.
tell me: human skill, technical skill, analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility, leadership, social influence, creative thinking, motivation, self awareness, technological literacy, empathy, active listening, curiosity, lifelong learning. Most of the ones that I just cited that were shared by surveys done by the World Economic Forum are what we would consider human skills.
Yeah. I mean, really, when we're looking at hiring, we need to be able to find people that can work together and
Mhm.
that can work effectively and productively. And all of those human skills that you listed, those answer those questions. Because we look at the workforce today, and even with the software and technology that's out there, even if you have multiple companies using the same software, they're going to be using it in their own unique way. And they're going to have to teach any new employee how to use the system in the way that they use it. So trying to find somebody with the technical side skill, it doesn't check all the boxes anymore, because
Yep.
everybody uses things in their own way and they adapt to use things in their own little work universe. And so if you're not finding somebody with these human skills, then you're really not bringing anybody in with any sort of advantage or skill into your workplace.
It's almost like you're trying to replicate what technology can do in a human,
Yeah,
where rather than optimizing the brilliant humanness or the qualities that make humans human and
yeah,
optimizing those and saying yes, and it's like saying I can have chocolate and vanilla. That's
yeah,
why they invented a swirl ice cream cone. I can have both. I can have the functional technical skills and I can bring
yeah.
in creative thinking and resilience and agility and empathy and active listening.
Yeah, when we're looking at it, I mean, we really want employees who can communicate effectively with each other. We want employees who can be adaptable, because the world is changing fast all the time. And especially in the last 5 years, we've seen just the complete 180 that workplaces have taken. And we need people who are able to work together in a team. And
Mhm.
so all of those human skills are what brings that to the table. So, how do you think that employers can find out if a candidate has those human skills during an interview?
You ask behavioral questions that get to the skills that you are looking for. And it's been a while since I've done active interviewing, but I remember when I had to do it, I got really good at the tell me about a time when questions. And so you start, I think the most important thing to start with is the skill. What are you trying to identify? And I've told a story for a long time about a leader that I was working with who came to me and, slumped down, and she goes, "Tina, I need you to teach my people work ethic." And I'm going,
Yeah. How
"There's
how do
no
you do
there's
that?
there's no LinkedIn Learning for work ethic.
Yeah.
Or can you teach my people how to write?" Now, I'm writing a book. I majored in English. I'm married to a writer. I learned how to write in elementary school, and that got honed in junior high and then high school. So my 90-minute webinar, as good as a facilitator as I am, is not going to teach you how to write.
Yeah.
So some of these skills, some of these abilities, these qualities are ones that we have been honing throughout not just our professional lives, but for a long time as humans. Work
Yeah.
ethic is one of those. So we had to talk about that. And after I was snarky Tina, which you get sort of a vibe of here, I said, we need to bring this raw material into your organization. We need to be interviewing and hiring for work ethic. And
Yeah.
she said, well, how do we do that? And I said, well, you think of questions. Tell me about a time when you were under a deadline, you had competing priorities, you had an exhausted team. So let's say you're interviewing a leader. How did you ensure that the most important things got done by the deadline?
Yeah.
So you come up with questions, you come up with scenarios that are going to get at how somebody would demonstrate these complex skills.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right by saying that there's a wide variety of behavioral questions that could be used. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the current employers and businesses that are out there don't understand the importance of the behavioral questions. And I think they're so used to tell me about your last job, tell me what you did, tell me, and they
How do you
focus
fit into
on,
this box?
yeah, and they're just trying to make sure that someone can prove that they've been employed for a decent length of time and
Mm-hmm.
consistently. And that doesn't really tell you anything about how they're going to perform once they get into your position, into the job. And so I think focusing on the
Mm-hmm.
behavioral questions is definitely something that needs to be brought to a lot of the businesses
Mm-hmm.
now, um,
Yeah.
and be a focus for what they need to be looking for.
Recruiting is a skill set. I mean, I have worked with amazing recruiters who are
Mm-hmm.
so good at what they do. I had a colleague who still is recruiting. He's delightful. He's so smart. And when he and I worked together, he would come in Monday morning, and I was heading up talent management for our organization. He'd come in, he'd go, "Oh my gosh, Tina, I met the perfect customer service manager candidate." And I'm like, "Oh, really? It's 8:30. You already had a chance to interview?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. We were in line at Chipotle." And I began talking to this person, and she has all the skills. So
Yeah.
just he had such an uncanny ability and was genuinely curious about somebody's ability to perform and what their potential could be. And he brought in the most random people who stayed the longest, performed the most effectively, built the best relationships, and you would never say that they fit in the box. And that is a skill set. It is an art. And I actually worry that we're losing that in the recruiting space.
I 100% agree that we're losing that in the recruiting. Um, I don't feel like we're having the conversations anymore that allow you to um, be introduced to the person,
Yeah.
and I think people are so aware that for so long the resume had to fit the job posting and that it would go through some sort of computerized um, checks that would
Mhm.
just discount so many people for not being able to check every box. and you would
Mm-hmm.
have, highly qualified candidates that would be automatically removed from the options for an employer because everything was trying to be very specific to the actual
Yeah.
position. And all of those programs, all of those, applicant tracking systems, and all of those resume builders, they took out the human side of everything so that they could start matching up and be able to get through to the recruiter. And I think that
Yeah.
that's been one of the biggest disservices to companies, is letting computers try to match everything up and discounting those who didn't fit into the box.
Well, and it's not just the technology either. It's the recruiters, and there are so many great recruiters out there, and I have worked with many of them, and I am so grateful because it's not a skill set I have, and so
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that that ability is out there in so many people.
Well, I also think that, going back to just trying to check the boxes, I have found that, the requirement of how many years you've been in a position doesn't really give you accurate information, because you can have somebody who
Hmm.
was in a position for 5-10 years. Doesn't mean they were good at the position. Could be that the company didn't hold them accountable, or were too scared to have to rehire that position, that they kept somebody who
Hmm.
was not good in it because at least the bare minimum got done. And the length of time doesn't tell you how somebody is going to work within the workplace. And that's why you do have to
Hmm.
be looking at those human skills. If you're not going to find someone who's going to be able to be a critical thinker, if you're not going to be able to find someone who's going to be adaptable with new teams and be able to help encourage others, it doesn't matter how long someone was at a different position. It
Yeah.
really truly doesn't. That doesn't tell you that they're going to be successful. The success is going to come from the human skills that
Hmm.
they have.
And it starts with identifying what are the skills, technical, functional, and human, that are most critical for success, both for the organization, those core skills, those core competencies, and for the role. And oftentimes organizations don't do that up front. So it's almost like they're reinventing each time, or they're forgetting because they haven't pulled back and said, let's do a skills assessment, let's do a competency assessment for this role at this moment in our organizational history, in the
Yeah.
culture that we have. What are the competencies and skills, technical, functional, human, that are most critical? Okay, do we agree? Yes, 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 yes. Great. Now, how do we interview for those? And how would we prioritize those? Because there will be trade offs.
Yeah.
You might be looking for such a unique combination of technical and functional that you may sacrifice some of the human, and
Yeah.
that's okay. You also might say, the human skill, we're looking for a program manager to manage a really tough program. We can teach them the software, we can teach them the technical, but they absolutely need to have active listening and empathy and resilience because they're working with some really tough teams.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to keep them here and help them be successful. So you can, it's the what do you buy versus build,
Yeah.
sort of the.
I've helped a lot of companies build job descriptions for job postings. And we
Mhm.
get into the discussion of requirements, and they start saying, well, we need a 4-year degree and 5 years of this and
Mhm.
2 years of this. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. Like, you're hiring a management position. How does all of that equate to their ability to manage this group of employees? And so we get to requirements, and sometimes I feel like employers are just making up school and longevity requirements as they go, thinking, well, if I got somebody with 5 years of experience, I might have to pay them a little bit more because of that experience, but they're going to be fantastic. And
Right.
they discount the fact that that 5 years doesn't equal the ability to be a true leader or mentor to the
Yeah.
team that you're trying to have them manage. And
Yeah.
so I think your approach of, okay, let's look at both the technical, the human. Let's look at all of that and see what you actually need. I think another good point would be that not all human skills are appropriate for every job. We don't need everybody to be agile in the way that we think about it according to humans, because there's a lot of jobs where their introvertedness or their ability to sit and problem solve on their own and maybe not be as interactive is truly a skill set for some positions. And
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure that we're not taking what we see as I could get along with this person, so that means that that's what I need for that position. You truly have to look at the position itself.
So it's more how you prioritize. You start with your list of skills, and it's absolutely fine to give a hiring manager even like use the World Economic Forum list and go, here's a list of skills. If
Yeah,
you don't have a set of core competencies already in your organization, this is a great sort of sideways way to start building out a competency set for your organization. It
yeah,
can start with the recruiting process, and you start noticing, oh my gosh, we continuously hire for these competencies. They've sort of become our core competencies
yeah,
because we also notice success with the people who truly demonstrate them on the job. So get to competencies however you get to them. And if it helps just to go, okay, here's a list of the top 12 most sought after human skills.
yeah,
How would you rank order these? What do
yeah,
these look like to you? Think of somebody already on your team who demonstrates this. Bring that to life. What does that look like? Think about somebody who hasn't demonstrated this. What's been the risk or downside to the organization or the team if they haven't brought creative thinking?
yeah,
Okay, you're starting to make it real in the hiring manager's mind to go, oh my gosh, yeah, oh, that's what creative thinking looks like. That's what agility is. Oh, because you and I have been doing this work for so long
yeah.
that we can rattle off really quickly. Well, here's what agility looks like. And we know it in our heads, but making it real for a hiring manager, you have to get them to imagine it in other ways.
That's a really good point. I would not have actually thought of that, because yes, I could list off all the skills for a particular position and be able to help say, well, here's your job posting is more accurate, and this is truly what you're looking for. But you're right, we need to be talking to the people who are actually interviewing and looking and talking with those applicants. They need to know what those translate into or how to identify it. Even if someone is not good at showing or talking about their human skill in an interview, you still need to be able to have whoever's interviewing be able to identify it. I think that goes back to your recruiter who was finding somebody at the coffee shop. They knew what the human skills were because
And
they
they
had
were
a
able,
conversation and immediately
mm-hmm.
were able to say, "Oh, those fit all the boxes that actually matter."
And I love how you said that actually matter. So if you really crystallize what is most important,
Yeah,
and these are just exercises that an HR business partner can do with a hiring manager, a good recruiter can do with a hiring manager. Hiring managers have so many other things that they're trying to get done in any
yeah,
given day. They need help with this. Use your AI tool to do that, or ask it. Get really creative with the prompts, which is how we're going to figure out how to live with AI. Is
yep.
what does give me some examples of the creativity skill set in action in the workplace. What is the downside of somebody not demonstrating creativity?
Yeah.
Again, use the tools available to you to try to bring this to life for you.
I think another thing that would definitely be an upside to AI for an employer is put in all of the job tasks for the position that you're trying to hire for, and put in the job description
Oh,
and say, hey, what are the soft skills that would be needed for this position? And can you help me from that build interview questions to figure out if somebody has it? So you can start with, I don't have to figure out what all of those soft / human skills are. I would still use soft skills for AI because that's, we haven't changed that verbiage nationwide yet, but we will. We'll work on it.
My chat GPT I've been training, and
Uh,
so it understands human skills. It's probably things
good.
like, oh Tina.
But I think that employers don't have to be able even to say, okay, what are the soft skills that are I
Hmm.
needed for this position? Have AI help you
Yeah.
figure that out.
I think that's a great idea. If you have a pretty decent technical functional job description, upload that and have it translate into behavioral. If you don't want to use soft skill, what are the behavioral competencies critical for success in this role? What are the soft skills I should be interviewing for? Give me sample behavioral interviewing questions. Oh my gosh, I love that idea.
I know everyone's a little weary of AI, but I do believe that it will just help us be more focused. Because you really, if you want it to give you answers that you need, you have to know what you're asking.
Exactly. The query, and everyone that I've talked to who has initially been wary and it's now become friends with AI, it's all about the query. And
Yeah.
think about even the skills, the human skills we are using to develop the query. To develop a really good query to use AI, you have to demonstrate creative thinking.
Yeah.
You have to demonstrate analytical thinking. What is the problem I am trying to solve here? And what are creative ways? You and I just did that really quickly. We 3 or 4 different ways of getting AI to help us. Treat it as a thinking partner, just like you probably, if you were collaborating with somebody, you wouldn't settle for the first bullet that you put on your
Yeah.
whiteboard. You're like, tell me more. That's even a query. Tell me more. Go deeper. Elaborate.
And that goes into the critical thinking as well and the problem solving. I mean, when you start
Mm-hmm.
listing out all of the different skills, there's a lot that go into being able to hone the AI or the chat GPT to give you something that would be productive. Even if it's not giving you the focused answer, it
Mm-hmm.
helps you think more about what your focus is. So even if it's not giving you what you need, you're using it to, um, like you said, brainstorm what the
Mm-hmm.
actual need is. Do you believe that soft skills can be taught on the job?
It's a great question, and I'm going to give the classic consulting answer, which is it depends,
Yeah.
because it depends on the skill. Can I teach work ethic? Could I mean, when did when did you learn work ethic?
I couldn't tell you, but it was got to be in my childhood because
As a
it's
kid?
always been with me. Yeah.
Yeah. You absorb those lessons from your parents.
Yeah.
You know, my father was a house painter. So I grew up, very middle class, but watching a parent work a very difficult, demanding physical job. I learned work ethic really early on. And so teaching somebody work ethic, that's not really a skill I'm going to teach in a class.
Yeah.
Could I coach a leader around how they are demonstrating work ethic? Yes. Could we use performance management in the workplace to set really clear requirements and expectations around work ethic and then provide feedback on how they are demonstrating or not demonstrating work ethic? Absolutely. So
Yeah.
it's maybe not a teaching thing, but you can help somebody develop the skill,
Yeah.
just not using the traditional, we're going to put you in a classroom and have somebody talk to you, or here's a LinkedIn Learning, or here's a Coursera, or here's a
Yeah.
blog.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like work ethic. One of the things I've done in the past is, if it's not there, just helping them understand why it's meaningful, and kind of like you
Mhm.
were saying, like even base it all the way back to performance management, and at least it gets them connected to it, and in some way knowing that they affect things. And so you might not say specifically, I'm teaching you work ethic, but you can,
Mhm.
there's many different ways to get somebody more involved in their day to day. What do you think employers need to know beyond just hiring correctly for the actual human skills that are needed? What do you think is an important thing to for employers to know about human skills in the workplace?
First and foremost, to not discount them, to not make it feel second class, to have a system in place where you define what those skills are, you set goals related to them, you hire for them, you evaluate against them, you reward for them, and that's also important. If
Mm-hmm.
people want to feel like they're going to be celebrated for demonstrating those human skills and not just for the technical functional. And it's not one or the other. This is about
Yeah.
both. This is, and I'm not poo pooing. I've worked for large technology companies, I've worked in very technical fields, I've worked with functional experts. It's not an either or. It is a
Yeah.
yes and I think that thinking is what I would love for more organizational leaders to embrace. It's both.
I also think it's important for them to understand, employers to understand, that having employees with these human skills and having employees that are able to bring all of this deep knowledge of how to interact to the table, it really helps define your company culture. It really helps define your company
Mhm.
itself. It really helps define the interactions between all of your employees at your business. And that we really have to start thinking about what happens when we continue to bring people on board who don't have the human skills to match the jobs. Then we get, a lot of poor communication and a lot of
Mhm.
resentment and a
Mhm.
lot of, just time wasted dealing with poor communicators and poor teammates and
Mhm.
people who are just frustrated and angry. Maybe they've let their ego too much into the mix. Maybe they don't have enough empathy in order to work well with other people. So when we're looking at this, it's not just can they do the job and the tasks of the job, it's how do I want the company to function overall. And I need to
Mhm.
make sure that I'm bringing those human skills into the company so that everybody works together.
That's such a great point. And another way of thinking about it is most organizations have some kind of set of aspirations, you know, central pillars, key principles, whatever we want to call them. I don't believe organizations have values because I think humans have values. So whatever you call whatever you put up on your wall, to
Yeah.
really step back from that and say, what are the behaviors that the individuals in the organization have to demonstrate? What are the skills they need to bring to the table? What are the attitudes and mindsets that they need to uh, bring forward to make that list of aspirations, key principles, core values, whatever you want to call them? How do you bring those to life? It's
Yeah.
lovely that you have that aspirational vision for your culture, but it's everybody bringing something. And if you have creativity as a pillar of your organization and you're not hiring for creativity and you
Yeah.
haven't defined what it means to be creative and you haven't figured out some behavioral interview questions and you haven't set that as an expectation, then how are you ever going to achieve what's on your board? And I talk a lot about this in my book because really the competencies are the what, but
Yeah.
we absolutely have to back up to the why. Why is it important that somebody be agile or
Yeah.
flexible or resilient?
I've not tied it back to like a core value or a vision statement, or even a mission statement. But you're right, a lot of those come down to a behavior and not a technical skill. And that's actually a really great point. Is, a lot of companies spend a lot of time saying, okay, what do we stand for, and what do we want to hold people accountable for? And if they want to use their mission statement, their vision statement, their core values to evaluate the employees that they have working there, then why aren't you hiring for that same?
Bring the raw material in that
Yeah.
give your leaders a fighting chance to have teams that live up to what's on the wall.
Yep.
And yeah, so I call the recruiting process the raw material process. So when I was talking to this leader who said, please teach my people work ethic, I said, give me a fighting chance and start hiring people who already demonstrated. I can help you hone it.
Yeah.
I can help you develop mentoring approaches and coaching approaches, and we can look at how you're setting goals, and we can look at how we're rewarding. But give me a fighting chance by bringing people in who already demonstrate 80% of what you want.
Teaching them to look at it like the raw material, like the phrase you just used, is actually a way that would be much easier to explain it to employers and recruiters. Is, your job description, your job posting is all of the things that you need to make or accomplish. So you're hiring for somebody who has all the raw materials in order to make those things work. And so I think that's actually a really great way that we can teach people, employers, recruiters, to look for the human skills when they're hiring. Is, okay, I can teach them how to use our software. If I have this, and this raw material, that's going to equal this that I can build. I think that's a fantastic way to teach it to people. I really love that phrasing. Thank you very much for that.
You and I agree that we're not now equating humans to, a big
Yes.
pile of iron ore. I mean, you and I have devoted our careers to investing in humans in the workplace. And so,
Yeah.
but it's the concept of it's the humans coming into the organization that allow you to have any fighting chance of producing the
Yep.
desired outcomes. And so it is a little bit like, the factory
Yeah.
and the best ingredients. We want the best ingredients coming in order for our customers to be delighted or for our quality to be high.
Yes, I agree. We don't think of potential employees or employees as iron ore, but it also, if we do it as a step by step process, almost, is, here's the raw material. Here are the people with the skills that we need. It always then would lead into, we need to develop it. And it's not just, we've hired somebody, we're going to show them how to use our software and they should be perfect. It's, we've got somebody with all these skills. Here's our onboarding. Here's our development stage. Like, you'll have a burst of development right at the beginning, almost like putting the ingredients together for maybe making bread. You have to get all of those pieces together, and the development doesn't end once you get the dough together. Then you have to wait for it to rise a little bit. Then you need to do additional steps, and it's a continual process. But thinking that it doesn't just stop with the hiring, that yes, now we have them, now let's develop it, let's continue to grow those things. As I think it stops, we hire people and sometimes the onboarding is almost non-existent, and then the development ends very quickly thereafter. And then a year down the line, you're saying, well, this person had all of these skills and everything said that they should have been wonderful. And it's not just hiring for human skills isn't going to equate to a wonderful employee. There's got to be a continual process on both sides to continue growing all of those skills. I think a lot of people miss that.
It's such a great metaphor. And of course, now I'm hungry thinking about bread. But you're right. I mean, you can have the best flour and the highest quality yeast. And yet, if you do not pay attention to how you use and optimize those ingredients throughout the process to the very last step before you stick it in the oven,
Yeah.
to produce your desired outcome, you're exactly right. It's there's a nurturing, and I've seen this, and I've helped clients get better at it, as have you, which is continue to invest in the people
Yeah.
and continue to use your ingredients wisely. Onboarding, such a critical opportunity to set goals, to
Mm-hmm.
introduce the culture, to be scanning for potential gaps. Because recruiting's not perfect, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a gap. You will have some gaps. You're like, well, we had to sacrifice this human skill in favor for this technical, or you know what, we had to sacrifice this functional skill for this amazing human skill.
Yeah.
Well, that carries into onboarding. You're setting up development plans, you're setting goals, you're figuring out mentoring, coaching, then evaluating performance, you're giving regular feedback, you are rewarding people for what
Yeah.
they have done, and you're holding people accountable for what they haven't. You're investing in the long-term growth through succession. It's an entire cycle, and this is also in my book, is there those processes are the unsung heroes, and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't stop with recruiting. And
Yeah.
yet how we organize our HR functions is a little bit siloed. You often get recruiting operating in a bubble, especially if you've
Yeah.
outsourced recruiting.
I think the disconnect also, I agree with that. And the disconnect comes back to the human skills. If we were better
Mhm.
communicators, if we were better team players, if we were able to work with each other to help point in the right direction for that critical thinking, I think that it would help overall. Yeah. Have you noticed any changes in the importance of human skills post pandemic or in the hybrid remote work environments? Have you seen any changes of employers identifying the need for human skills?
What I have noticed about the job market is a lot of hesitancy, a lot of fear around hiring the wrong people. I think it's coming from all of the uncertainty. I think it's coming from the inability to really forecast effectively because of the rapid change
Yeah,
and the economic topsy-turviness that we're all experiencing with all of the geopolitical, socioeconomic, you name it, big forces whacking against organizations.
yeah,
So I think organizations are letting perfect be the enemy of good and are forgetting that there is risk inherently built into recruiting. You're never going to hire the perfect person. If that was the case, all of us who have ever been hired by any organization probably wouldn't have made it because
yeah,
none of us is perfect. Organizations take chances on people, and they have a really good sense of their prioritized list of qualities, characteristics, skills, behaviors, attitude, mindsets, and then they hold people accountable. So I almost wonder if this hesitancy with recruiting is coming from poor processes downstream. Well, we
yeah,
don't have an account and a culture of feedback and accountability, so we better get it right in recruiting because once they're in, they're going to
yeah.
get nothing from us. They're going to get no feedback, no development. So we better get it right in recruiting because none of the leaders have time to mentor or coach or give feedback.
Yeah, I do see that as well. And it goes back to we need to be communicating and developing throughout the entire process. I do think one of the other things that I've seen more and more is that, companies are very hesitant about the hybrid remote workplace. It was forced upon employers for a little bit there. And now they're saying, well, how do I know they're actually working? How do I keep them accountable? How do I know that they're effective? And I think that this is forcing them to look more at those human skills. And it's kind of, I don't think they understand that they're looking for those yet, but I think it's forcing them to recognize that there needs to be someone who has really good time management, someone who's able to stay focused, someone who can communicate. I think that they're realizing they need to be finding that, but I don't think that they've understood how to put that into words yet, or equate it back to the need for a soft skill or a human skill or a behavior. And so I feel like the changes are forcing it. I just think people are not able to identify it yet.
Sort of like that quote by, there was a Supreme Court justice, I think in the 1960s, who, in a ruling about pornography of all things, his quote that I'm paraphrasing is, "I can't define it, but I know it when I see it." Well, what creative thinking is, or I know the je ne sais quoi that's required to, thrive in a flexible hybrid workplace.
Yeah.
Okay, define it. Get it
Yeah.
out of your head. Make it known. Put it into words, because my hunch is that how you define it and how she defines it and how they define it is all going to be different.
Yep.
And so you need to have a consistent expectation of what it takes to thrive in a hybrid culture. And it's very doable. It's very possible. And it's a great conversation starter.
I think that's it for us for today, but I feel like we've talked ourselves into a couple more of these because the conversation has just been outstanding.
Oh, that's good.
I've enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I do feel like we could talk on this subject and more for quite a length of time.
This has been such a pleasure. I've had so much fun too.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Send us an email at hrtoolboxpod@gmail.com to suggest topics and let us know what tools you're looking for to improve your workplace. Subscribe now and join us every Monday as we explore the tools, resources, and strategies that can transform your business. Follow the HR Toolbox on socials at HR Toolbox Pod. Follow us to stay up to date with the latest HR Toolbox resources and news. See you in the next episode. Don't let anyone put a wrench in your week.